else's sense of urgency. You know, like I really, you know, when a student comes to me saying, I really, really need this right now, I might know that they really, really don't need that right now. Do you know what I mean? Like this is something that can be put up, or I know that this is really not my area, and it's something that I need to respond to immediately, but I feel that student's anxiety, and it's kind of contagious. So I have to pull myself back and say, Landy, you do not need to respond to this email at this moment, or so yeah, that's a square that we're at. Like I said, that's our learning to say no and learning to set our boundaries square, so that things that aren't important to us we don't force ourselves to do them right now because they're urgent to somebody else. Does that make sense? Did anyone else want to comment on that before I look at square?
We're still on 3, right?
Yes.
For protocol and stuff. Distractions for me, because since I have ADHD and I have anxiety kind of thing as my diagnosis for mental illness, it can be very easily for me to get distracted, especially when I'm at home with my cat and my boyfriend. It can get all messed up pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That square, living in that square is just a big ball of anxiety and distraction, and here, there, and everywhere. Yep. Caitlin, did you have something else to say? Is your hand still up from before?
Both.
Okay.
I just wanted to, it's not a distraction, but it's funny because like when I'm preparing, because we're doing virtual learning for Finn, I'm preparing, a space for him to have his school here. And I'm, looking around and I see a pile of clothes, like for me to be distracted by, and, all this mess and all this stuff for me to be distracted by, but I'm trying really hard to make him a space that he's not distracted by. So it's really easy to do it for others, but not for yourself. And it's very, I've done all online. I haven't been in the classroom at KVCC, but I have at other colleges. And it's really, when you go into a class, it's set up for not to be distracted. The most distracting thing is the clock on the wall. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy at home to be distracted and just to be able to take the time and maybe get those things done before you start, and then they're not distractions anymore or something like that.
And that's a great point for learning online. There are so many distractions at home and so many things that we might tell ourselves are urgent. But if you really stop and think, is it really urgent? Is it really that important? And a lot of times, without even realizing we're doing it, we're kind of using these distractions and interruptions as avoidance techniques. Okay, I'm working on something that I'm really not enjoying working on, or I'm studying something that's boring to me, or I know I have to write this paper, and oh, look, I just got a notification that I have an email. It is so easy to go ahead and check that email. But again, it's reminding ourselves, that's not urgent. That's not that important right now. What's more important is for me to complete this assignment or study for this test. Yeah, absolutely. Home. When I went to college, I could not study at home. There was too much at home. So I would either study on campus or I would go to my local public library and study there, because I knew there are 10 million distractions at home. Absolutely. Richard, I'm going to give you one more try. Did you have something you wanted to share? Okay, he's still off being busy. Tammy?
Yes, I just wanted to kind of ping off from what you and Amanda had said. Amanda and I I'm pretty sure we know what she was talking about there because we used to work together a long time ago. Um, yeah, right. And it's good to see you here. But I think one of the biggest distractions for me was when 2020 came in. Um, it's been a challenging year with obstacles to overcome for everybody. And when we transferred over to an online or a virtual world, you're right, we are at home and we are facing priorities and emergencies and things of that nature. So one of the biggest issues I had was my kids have always been a priority, my kids and my grandchildren. And I struggled so hard with that until one day I said, you know what? My homework, my classes, those are emergent. Those are priorities if I'm going to get where I need to be. So I had to set the expectations with my kids to say, hey, during this time frame, I'm working, I'm busy. And if it's an actual emergency, like you need to call 911 or one of the kids need help or something, then E911 in a text message. So I'm not distracted by my phone ringing and my grandkid calling me on FaceTime to say, hey, Meme, what are you doing? So setting those expectations with them was a hard lesson I had to learn. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen from time to time where there are emergencies, but I can definitely relate to everyone's situation one way or another. So, it's good to hear that you're not the only one that struggles with that.
Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome. Manda, it was good to see you.
I miss you so much. I'm so excited to see you.
Lisa Black, you have your hands up.
I do. I just wanted to share like something I was thinking about too. I try to be mindful, like they always say, be mindful of your diet, but that can also include like the information that you take in and how you take it in, your information sources. And like in thinking about like social media and just media in general, for example, when COVID first hit, like I was constantly like, reading the news stories and, checking different information and things and trying to, understand what was going on and what I should expect and plan for. And it's not to say not to do that, but also like that stuff has a way of like, COVID's not going anywhere. Like we still have it. And, and in March, it felt like such a big like thing, and I guess like for me, definitely stay on top of information, definitely keep yourself safe and be an informed citizen. That is so important. But, for me, I need to step away too from things that are important. Like, like news stories about things that impact my life are extremely important, but just being mindful of my diet, and how much I take in too. I think that's, and the media has a way of making things seem like so urgent. And like, if you don't watch this story right now, like, think about even how they talk about snowstorms. Like we're in Maine, we know how to handle snow. It's important to know when it's coming, but we're probably not all going to die, from a blizzard, because we've been there, done that. And half the time they don't hit as hard as they're supposed to. So I don't know, just a thought I had as you guys were talking too.
That's an excellent point. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I think a lot of things that come up as urgent, probably aren't as urgent as we think they are, especially if they're in the not important category. The news about COVID and keeping yourself aware and informed without going down like the social media rabbit holes, that really falls into the important but not urgent category. But it's important that we know it, but it's not urgent that we do it, but we drop everything and watch that news story or read that article. But there's a lot of societal pressure that makes us feel like these things are urgent and we have to deal with them right now. So that was a good point. Any other comments on square 3?
I just wanted to point out that, like, think about how much we're talking about square 3 versus when we talked about square 1.
Yep.
Like, it's crazy to think about how easy we can think of all these things that interrupt our lives, but for emergencies, you know, there was only a couple of things, really, truly. So it's just
It's
something
true.
to think about.
It's true. And just to validate, there are folks out there who seem to spend so much of their time in quadrant 1, where everything is urgent and important. And aside from the things that we have no control over, like the medical emergencies, a lot of times that's because of lack of time management, of prioritizing and planning and dealing with all of these P words up here that I'm going to talk about. You know, prevent, prioritize, protocol, postpone. So the whole goal of this is to help us live more in square 2. But yeah, we didn't talk as much about square 1, but if you're a person who feels like you're constantly living in that square 1 where everything is now and so very important, I would humbly submit that working on migrating those things, you know, migrating your life to square 2 by using some time management techniques could be really beneficial, as it is for all of us. And again, I'm going to talk more about the how to, you know, doing that in just a little bit. So let's talk about, oh, Michelle.
Yeah, let me first apologize for having my mic on earlier. As you were speaking and as Caitlin was talking earlier about sometimes it's easier to do it for others than to do it for ourselves. I think about square 2 as being prioritizing what's important for you. I think a number of students come to KV because they're helpers and they are pursuing the helping field. And if that rings true for some of the students that are with us today, you really want to take some time thinking about prioritizing things for yourself. And when it comes to getting hit with challenges that others that you normally would be helping them to help themselves is helping you to set your priorities as well. So I just want to kind of throw that out there that over the years working with students, this is an area that comes up quite frequently. And we're happy to help you kind of tease that out and even role play how you're going to say no. Because what's urgent to one of your friends that they've grown accustomed to being able to come to you to problem solve, this may not be the priority for you now that you've added the role of student to your life.
Very good point, Michelle. Thank you. Lisa, did you have more, or is your hand still up from before?
It's still up from before. I didn't follow the rules. I'm putting it down now. Sorry.
It's all right. Okay. I am going to move on to square 4 then. So if you look, these are not important and not urgent. Okay. So I've seen other versions of these quadrants where they call this the time wasters. So this is the square you want to keep yourself out of. So I'm just gonna put a little caveat in there that some of these things that we do are important in a way for maintaining our mental health, for maintaining just to give ourselves some time out, you know, to do something frivolous and fun. So I'm not saying never do these things. Okay. We all, I mean, I'm sure everyone can come up with a million things that we do that aren't urgent and aren't important on a daily basis. For me, I stream Netflix. Okay. That's not important. It's not urgent at all. However, because I spend as much of my time as possible in square 2, got that built into my life. So I know I have that time in the evening that I can sit and watch Netflix if I want to, because I've accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish that day. However, when we're working online or on schoolwork in any form, these things can get in our way if they're taking precedent over the things in the other squares. And is that Nicole? Yes, Nicole Nickerson.
So I'm kind of the opposite. I let myself sit there and stew on a problem until I make it bigger than it is, and I don't come up for air until I've solved it. So I freak myself out twice as much as I should. So I totally understand, and I it's hard to explain, but basically I'm very like one track minded, and I have to work on myself, actually giving myself a break and being like, it's okay that you don't understand it. You're not the only one. You're not being left behind. Because I originally went to college at Maine Maritime Academy, and that did not do well for me. Because I felt like the biggest idiot in the room. And then that was so hard to ask for help after that, even though people are totally willing to help you. It's just like being able to admit, okay, I'm not lacking anything. I just need an extra step. Like, instead of jumping on to the next step, I need a half step to get there.
That's an excellent point. It's a good insight.
Thanks.
Yeah. Tabitha or Charles?
It's Tabitha. So I use this one a lot. When I get overwhelmed or whatever, I'll go straight onto my TikTok and I'll sit there for hours until my phone dies, and I'm like, oh crap, I was supposed to be doing something really important.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's nice and relaxing until I realize, oh snap, I need to be doing stuff and I need to be productive.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of the words I want to use. I think it's kind of like a drug or a drink. You know, it's something that we do because we're feeling overwhelmed, too much to do. And so I'm just going to shut down and do this. And this feels really good right now. Unfortunately, when it's done, when it's over feeling good, then we still have all that crap that was overwhelming us before that we need to deal with. Yeah. Amanda.
I think the last time I attended KVCC, I had this almost feeling that I wasn't worthy of being in school. And so I would use the television, I'd use Facebook to avoid doing paperwork. I would let those distractions because I didn't feel like I was enough. And I've had to change that story in my head. And it does feel better going back this time without feeling like I'm trying to prove it to anyone, that I know that I'm worthy and I'm not having to prove that I'm the smartest one. And I'm noticing even with these meetings, I'm not clicking everywhere, even if something pops up on my watch or my phone. And I think changing the story in our heads will help to not rely on those avoiders, those things that will help us avoid the situation.
I love that you just said that, Amanda, because that's kind of a segue into what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, or one of the days that, whichever day it is that I'm doing the growth mindset and the inner critic. It is tomorrow. Thank you. Yes, so that's a good segue into that. That's an excellent insight. Thank you. Nicole, did you have more you wanted to say? Okay. All right. And okay. I think we're good. I'm pausing for a moment to make sure I didn't miss anything I wanted to mention here. You guys had some great points. You kind of did my job for me right there. Yeah, I'm not thinking of anything that I missed. But yeah, this is a really easy square to get sucked into when we don't want to do something else, either because we just don't like it, it's boring, or because we're overwhelmed by the amount of work we have to do. So again, this is a square that we want to try not to spend as much time in by prioritizing this square, by trying to live in square 2. So now I'm going to talk about square 2. So I've been saying all along, this is the square you want to try to be living your life as much as possible in. Okay, no one lives here 100%. No one is perfect, not by a long shot. But this is our thing. This is when we're dealing with things that are important, but not urgent. So there are things that are important to us, things that have meaning to us, but we don't need to do it all right this moment. Okay, we have a plan for making this happen. So things that fall into this category, there's a short list here. Our health, obviously, your health is important, very important. Our relationships are important to us with our partners, with our children, with our extended family, with our friends. These are important to us. A passion project, something that you feel passionately about. I would assume, and maybe I'm wrong, that you have decided to come to school. So this is something that you have a passion for. Like, this is something you really want. That's what I hear students telling me. It's what I hear you telling me. I want this. I really want this. This means a lot to me. That's important to you. Okay, so we want to try to make sure this happens in a way that we're not feeling like it's urgent all the time. But that's a long-term goal, getting through school. That's going to take you a year or two or even more to finish that. That's your passion project. And anything else that you feel passionately about that you work on. For me, aside from my trio job, which I do feel very passionately about, I work on the food pantry, and that's a passion project of mine. That sometimes does throw me into the urgent, or can throw me there if I allow it to. Learning, so that goes along with us, with our topic today, with academics and being in college. But learning anything that's important to us takes time. You don't learn something, by, reading something once and ta-da, now I know everything about this. When you really want to learn something, it takes time to do that. So it's not urgent. It's important, but it's not urgent. And then that balance between work and school and family and friends and all of the other different roles and responsibilities that we have in our lives, finding that balance, that is very important to everyone. It's not urgent. We don't need to figure it all out right at this moment, but it is an important thing. And as you think about these things, most of these things are things that are ongoing. It's not something you just figure out once and ta-da. This is kind of, these are long-term, ongoing things, which is what moves them into the not urgent category. They're things that we're going to work on over time. Can anyone think of anything else that belongs in this box, at least for you? These can be different for different people. Is there anything that belongs in this box for you?
Which box are we talking about?
The box number 2, important but not urgent.
Relationships with my boyfriend, getting the house cleaned up. It's his, and this is my second apartment. Me trying to do all the chores and getting everything done when he's still learning how to maintain an apartment is hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So that's something that you can work on over time, and it's important to you.
Yes.
Tabitha?
It's Charles this time, but my passion projects, like I'm trying to launch a nonprofit right now, and I also invent on the side. But finding time to actually construct those while balancing everything else is kind of very difficult because it seems like something's always getting in the way,
Mm-hmm. And the good thing about, not that it's good that things get in the way, but the good thing about being in this square is that it's not urgent. So as long as we've committed ourselves to however much time it's going to take to do it, if we think it's important enough, then we figure it out, right? If it's something that's important to us, we find a way to make it happen. It might not happen overnight, but it happens. Riley?
Just as I get here, I gotta move to a different room. Hold on.
Of course.
Someone's
urgent.
So, yeah. I feel like things can move between the boxes as well. because my example is I'm currently staying with my great grandmother because her health is declining. And balancing that and school doesn't leave a lot of time for like hanging out with friends and doing a bunch of social things. But right now, like I mentioned earlier, one of my friends is leaving for Scotland Saturday. So her like meeting up with her one last time has sort of moved into my urgent and important square, but not in an emergencies way, but a like this is very important to me.
It's moved up your priority list.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I have other friends that like we talk enough, but we don't get to really hang out anymore because I just don't have any time because I have other things that are much higher on my list of priorities.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so does anyone else have something they want to add to that before I start yakking again? Sierra?
I just think having a happy balance, I mean, obviously schoolwork is important, but having that happy balance instead of just making 100% it all being about schoolwork, trying to walk away from it for a little bit if you get too frustrated, because if you're working on it all the time, then you're not going to be able to have that mindset, and you're just going to be all over the place. You're just going to tear your hair out. That's what I do at times. Sometimes I overthink things and I'll just try to keep doing it. But then eventually I'm like, I have to just step away from it and do something that I enjoy. I like spend time with my son, take him to the park. Which is weird. Another thing I like doing is grocery shopping, but I don't know.
I do too. It's okay.
Got my list, got my coupons. So just do something that I enjoy doing, even if it's like half an hour. I mean, it's not gonna really take away from anything. So definitely have that happy balance in your life.
Yes.
Help.
That's really the most important part of all of this is finding that balance, I think, and finding the balance that works for you so that you're accomplishing your goals and meeting your priorities. Yours. It doesn't matter what someone else's are. It's this is your life.
One more thing, I'm sorry.
No.
For me, also not trying to feel bad when my son keeps looking over here. When he's reaching his arms out saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," and always trying to get my attention while I'm trying to do my schoolwork. That's another tough one that I'm over.
I'll bet that's really hard. Yep. Caitlin, did you have a comment?
Yeah, you really kind of said it already, but knowing that, especially people that right out of high school that, go to college and they are in their career and they already know what they're doing, and, it's so easy to compare yourself to other people. And it's just what you said, like, it's okay that you didn't do that. It's okay that you took a different path, and it's okay that you are where you are. And it's okay if school isn't your top priority. It's okay to plug away, take a couple classes at a time. You don't have to go full throttle at it. And, if other things are your priority and you just want to plug away and you give yourself that time to do those things, that's okay. It's your journey. Like it's no one else's journey except for your own. And if that means it takes a little bit longer, then it takes a little bit longer. But in the end, it's something that you're going to accomplish, and it's going to feel great when you do end up accomplishing it. So.
Thank you, Caitlin. Riley, did you have something else? Was your hand still up from before? I think she might have stepped away. So I am going to continue yakking at you now, I think. All right, so I said I was going to talk about these P words in each of these squares. Now I'm going to start in square 2 with prioritize. This square is all about prioritizing. If you can really solidly list your priorities and always have that in the forefront of your mind, okay, these are my priorities. That alone, just solidifying for yourself, validating for yourself, these are my number one priorities, can help to keep you out of the other 3 squares. Really owning your priorities. can help just to, and always be mindful of them. So when you find yourself like in square 4 and you're on Facebook and suddenly you've been on Facebook for an hour and you just meant to stop on to see if anyone had left you a message. You know, it can help to really, if you catch yourself in that, to say, wait a minute, is this any of my priorities? Is this meeting any of my priorities? Because if it's not, then you're cheating yourself, right? Out of things that are important to you. So yeah, having those priorities really firm in your mind, even write them on a piece of paper and stick them somewhere so that right in your face, these are my priorities. This is the stuff that's important to me. Also planning, it's not one of the P words here, but it's part of prioritizing, and that's planning. If you prioritize and you try to live in that square 2 with your priorities, part of that is going to be planning how you're going to make everything happen. So, and I know yesterday we talked about, you know, having a calendar, having some sort of app on your phone that helps you keep track of things, whatever works for you. Planning is an important part to keep us out of the urgent, either of the urgent squares. Because if we've planned ahead, then things like, so say assignments, working on an assignment that you know is due at midnight on Sunday, you know, plan to get that done. You know, don't wait until 9 o'clock Sunday night and then, oh, I have to write this 5-page paper and it's due by midnight. Suddenly it's urgent. And that feels awful. Okay, I've done it. I still do these things on occasion, and it doesn't feel good. It's sickening. It's sick feeling, right? When suddenly you realize you have 3 hours to write a 5-page paper and you haven't even begun it yet or know what you're going to do. That's horrifying. So we really do need to be planning things out in advance to help stay in this square. Now, if we look at the square 1 where it says prevent, as I said, some emergencies are not preventable. They're beyond our control. But the example I just gave of something being due in a few hours, that is within our control. And we can prevent those things. We can prevent that type of thing by trying to stay in square 2 and planning ahead and sticking, you know, really valuing our priorities and making sure we're putting those things first. So there are some things that some emergencies we can prevent from happening just by planning our lives more carefully. Does anyone have anything they want to say about that, about preventing emergencies from happening or planning and prioritizing?
I have something on it. I have people that when you do plan something out, they put it, they make a roadblock, and it's very hard to actually prioritize that. Like one of the things when my mom calls when I'm in the middle of doing something, because I know if I don't pick up the phone, she's gonna keep on calling until I pick up the phone.
And in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about square 3 and protocol that will kind of address that a little bit. Thank you for sharing that, Liz. Tammy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment and just share a tip. I got to turn this up a little bit because I can barely hear you. So KVCC does the monthly planners. And I do know that there are 1,500 that are scheduled to be mailed out soon. They're not quite ready yet, but you all will all be receiving one. But this is, for example, I don't know if you can see this, but it's very, very full. This is like an awesome tip to plan out your work week. And actually go ahead throughout the day. Some of us, like for me, I need to have it on paper form. I need to be able to see it 24/7 versus in my calendar on my computer, where I'll get the pop-up reminders. Sometimes it's prioritizing which ones are okay, can I deal with this right now? Or is it something that's going to happen again later? Versus writing down my priorities on my calendar. So we make these for a reason, and they are absolutely the best. And, I use this, it's kind of like my Bible, so to speak, for college. So it's just a best practice or a tip that might help you stay organized. It might help you, keep things in line, and just your ability to be able to see your week in advance to know, okay, well, this might be a day where I might be able to catch up on a few things, that are not so emergent. So that's it.
Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Nicole?
Thank you for telling me they get mailed because I need them of those.
They're coming. They're just in the making with the academic office, and everybody is just really trying to get students on board for fall. So they're coming.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm really excited for those because I live on lists. Like I have a grocery list and a to-do list, and I'm kind of weird in the way that I do it because I have like an actual planner of deadlines, and then I write myself a list every single day, the work I was given, and I'll like redo the list every single day of things I haven't done to get on it and make sure I do it. But also, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was looking online and I couldn't find the academic calendar like set in stone yet. So I'm glad that they're working on that because I was wondering if maybe like they were waiting to see how many people applied, if they were still going to have the school year or whatever, but I'm glad it's getting settled.
Yeah, the creator is Karen Normandin, and we all know that her schedule is loaded. Like she's, in and out here and there. But they are coming, and so, patience is a virtue, and this is one of those things where we kind of have to have the patience because we know that she's full. So, but the great thing about these as well is after the actual month, for those that haven't seen them, you have the days broken down, and there's actual room to make yourself notes about things that you need to make notes for. So I love it. It's the best thing ever.
Awesome.
For me.
Great. Riley, did you have something you wanted to share?
One more thing.
Yeah.
While we were on the topic of planners, I was sort of planner obsessed. It's what got me through the last semester of high school. I have 2 planners. One of them is like it's got monthly and weekly, and then I have another one that's full daily. So I would just write down absolutely everything and make sure I had it like on hand. And it definitely helps. But then the other thing was like about the squares. Another really important thing is making sure that if you're making plans and they involve other people, you make sure that both of your priorities are on the same spot. Because like I live in a strict household where when I make plans, they are concrete. You need to plan out every detail and everyone needs to know about it. But my friends are the people who are like, hey, so in 20 minutes, can I come pick you up? Or when I make plans, some of them won't honor those plans and I'll be sitting there waiting for them to get me and they don't show up. So it's like when you're making your priorities, if you put something in the forefront and somebody else doesn't, or vice versa, like it definitely messes with the rest of your squares as well.
Absolutely. Communication is very important if your priorities involve other people. Absolutely. Did I miss anyone? Caitlin, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I was going to say it during the student panel, but since we're talking about it now, I just wanted to share one of the things that I did when I first started. I did use the planner. I picked one up when I went into financial aid, so I used that. And so I, like everyone else has said, I used the calendar. I used to put like tests or like papers or like big things in, so it's easier to see this is where I'm at and this is where this is at, and kind of plan that way. And then, but I made myself these little sheets, and you probably can't see it, but it was easier for me to do like each week. And then I had each of my classes, I took 4 classes. And so like for my spreadsheet class, and then I have check boxes. So I write my assignments every Sunday night, what's due for the coming week. And then I can, like, as I do them, I can check them off. And that was really helpful for me to have this little sheet. And yeah, just something that I made and something that helped me.
That's an excellent tip, Caitlin. There are a million online resources. If you just Google like planner, and then you'll have a million hits. There are a million ways to organize your time, and different ones work for different people. So, part of starting college is figuring out what works best for you. So don't be afraid to try with, play around with different time management tools to get yourself through. I know we're a little over, so, but I don't want to rush either. But we are almost finished. So I'm just going to take us into square 3, which we spent a lot of time on. Clearly, this is an area where I think all of us feel a lot of pressure to meet other people's expectations. So you notice the word protocol here. Protocol is sort of like a set of steps that you will follow if this happens, kind of thing. That's your protocol. And that's something that you're going to develop while you're in this state right here in square 2. So, all right, I know, for instance, all right, we're all going to college, so college is a priority for me. Okay, it's one of my priorities, it's on my list. So what am I going to do if my BFF calls me during one of my scheduled prioritized study times, say, hey, let's go do this really cool thing, and that's I'm not going to tell you what you should do, because that's going to depend on you. But having a protocol, okay, I know that every day my sister is going to call me and she's going to want to gab, and it's really hard to get her off the phone, so I might develop a protocol of, if I see my sister's name come up on my phone, I am going to not answer. I'm going to send her a quick text saying, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of studying right now. I'll call you back when I can. Or I'm going to have the protocol of, okay, when my sister calls, the next time she calls, I'm going to tell her, these are the times that I won't be able to talk to you. If you call me during these times, I'm not going to be able to answer the phone because I'm busy during those times, and that's really important to me. But developing a protocol. So what you're going to do if one of these urgent things that's urgent to somebody else lands on your plate, something that's not important to you, is not one of your priorities, but suddenly it's urgent to somebody else and they want you to deal with it or to be available to them. So having a protocol in mind. How am I going to deal with? How am I going to deal with when my child, is constantly, mommy, 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 when I'm trying to do my schoolwork. So, and again, I'm not going to tell you how to do that because that's different for everybody, but deciding ahead of time how you will respond to these things and consistently respond that way. Okay, it can be really hard at first when we're learning to say no, or we're trying a different technique of dealing with somebody. But we need to be consistent about it. And again, keep our priorities in mind. Is this a priority of mine? Is this important to me? And if not, how am I going to deal with it? Does that make sense? Has anyone ever had to develop something like that? That you'd like to share? Tammy, your hand is up, and I don't know if it's because it's still up or you have something you want to say. Okay, I think she's probably
No,
busy.
I'm good. I just forgot to put it down. Sorry.
Nope. No worries. I just didn't want to ignore you.
Can I say something, Landy?
Yes.
So I know what helps me because I have an almost 2-year-old myself.
And basically everyone in the household knows if I have my headphones in when I'm doing schoolwork or anything, don't bother me unless like the house is burning down, or if my son broke a bone and like you can't fix it, that's when you bother me. But that's like my signal, like I'm in my zone, like don't bother me. So that's what I do.
That's an excellent tip.
A lot.
Yep. That's an excellent tip. Having some sort of visual cue for the people around you to say, okay, if you see me like this, that this is a do not disturb time. Even if it means putting up a sign that says do not disturb right now, you know, whatever is going to work for you. Yep,
yeah.
That's good. Anybody else? Okay, we've gone a little bit over our time. It's 11:10. Lisa, I am going to stop sharing and turn control back over to you. Oh.
Sorry, yeah, I was I had taken a screenshot of our screen and I kept clicking on the microphone, my mute microphone, but it was on the screenshot. So I was like, why isn't it clicking?
I've done that.
I know. So anyway, but here we are. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your attending the morning session. Our 11:30 student panel is going to be all on online learning. So you're going to hear from students who have been there, done that with online learning, and have lived to tell the tale. They're going to share some cautionary tales, things not to do, and some things to definitely try. And we have a last minute switch. One of our panelists that was supposed to be on today, Jeremy Hills, is not able to join us today. So he'll be with us tomorrow, which is going to be the campus resources panel. But Jordan actually is going to take his spot, and Jordan did most of her classes online. So she graduated. So she definitely is someone who can share some success tips for you. So we'll meet you back here in about 20 minutes. Yeah, and I think that's all from me. Does anyone have anything else before we take a quick break? Okay, awesome. I'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.